we process 22.4 trillion uses of music.
How many?
So, 22.4 trillion.
Hello and welcome to this very first. God, Andy, you're so you're like a godlike creature.
At this moment I'm now about to destroy that though.
Yeah, probably. I forgot what I was saying now. Yes, the very first godlike creature, very first interview in Inside the Music Industry is Andy Ellis from PRS Music. Welcome to the show, or the group, should I say. Hello.
Hello, Emma. Hello, everyone.
It's nice to have you here. Thank you very much for... We finally got there. This has been, I'm sure, about a year.
It has taken a while of organising, all down to me not being available, I hasten to
add. Absolutely useless. What can I say?
I know.
So give us a quick intro to your job. What's your title? What do you do?
Okay, so I lead the relationship manager and outreach team at PRS for Music. That's the team that looks after our members and also helps people, or tries to help people, to understand what PRS is, what it does, where we fit in the music industry. My background is mainstream music industry, A&R, music publishing, other stints at PRS, bit of freelance stuff. So the usual kind of portfolio career.
Yes, you have had a great
bit of everything,
portfolio.
Basically.
Yes, and you're quite happy at PRS for Music, and you live near the sea. I mean, what more do you need in life?
I'm very happy at PRS Music, and I at PRS for Music even, and happier living by the sea.
Oh, I get you. So give us a quick rundown of what PRS for Music actually is.
Okay.
What does it do?
PRS for Music is an organisation that pays royalties to songwriters and composers when their music is used by business. So when you hear a piece of music in public, that's generally a use of the performing right. PRS for Music is the PRS Music stands for the Performing Right Society. So when you hear a piece of music in public, that is a use of the performing right. PRS issues licenses on behalf of its members. The money that comes back from those licenses gets paid out to the members whose music has been used. So we're a not-for-profit organisation. We're owned by our members, over 100 years old, and we exist to pay money to songwriters and composers.
It's a wonderful organisation, Andy. It's just wonderful. I'm a big fan of it myself. And the payments come from live music and radio airplay, TV appearances, streams from Spotify, things like that. And, it always makes me laugh when there's a big hoo-ha, like so-and-so's played the Super Bowl and they didn't earn a fee. And I'm like, oh, they've been paid. Yeah.
I think we see that quite often, that, people will play a show and there's that distinction between the fee they get paid to play a show, which may or may not, obviously that's negotiable, but then there is also the PRS income. There's the hidden income streams. There's PRS and there's PPL, another organisation similar to PRS. So there's a huge range of royalty streams active in the music industry.
It's not just about the fee, folks. It's not just about the fee. So you are what's called a performing rights organisation, a PRO. Are you the only PRO in the UK?
So PRS has a virtual monopoly in the UK. So the short answer to that would be yes. There are, in fact, let me qualify that answer. So PRS for Music is an umbrella title that covers two different businesses. PRS, which I mentioned, the Performing Rights Society, and MCPS, which is the Mechanical Copyright Protection Society. So both of those organisations, separate organisations, working together under that PRS for Music umbrella. We also have another organisation which I referenced, I think, which is PPL, the Phonographic Performance Limited, but actually just known as PPL. And they do a very similar thing to PRS, but they look after the rights inherent in the sound recording. So we look after songwriters, composers, music publishers, the people involved in the creation of the music, PPL looking after performers on recordings and labels. That's the master rights side.
There's so many acronyms. It's very hard to keep up because I'm sure you used to be called PRS stroke PPL, but I can't. Was that a few years ago? But
we've been PRS. I think we were PRS-MCPS. We've been called lots of things.
Yes, I'm sure you have. But PRS for Music is now what you're called. Okay, I don't want to get too technical, but so we've kind of covered what the difference between PRS and PPL is. PRS songwriters, PPL players on the music on the songs, like session musicians, things like that. Even though they didn't have.
If you're on a recording and that recording is played on the radio, then you'll be entitled to a PPL royalty. And if you wrote that recording, you'd be entitled to a PRS royalty.
Nice. So you want to be writing the songs and playing on the songs. You get the double, don't you? It's double trouble. So when should a musician join PRS? Because you're not automatically in it just because you've written a song and you've got it played on the radio. You do have to join. It's a place you need to join. So when would a good time to join PRS Music be for a musician? That's a terribly worded question. When should they join?
Let's go with when.
Crying out loud.
When should they join? So a good time to join.
Thanks.
A good time to join PRS would be, and it is a really pertinent question because it costs £100 to join PRS and £100 to join the MCPS side of the business. So if we focus on PRS, it's £100. It will cover you for the world. It will cover you for life. On the surface of it, that's good value, but it's only good value if you get that £100 back in royalties over the next 6 to 9 months, call it a year. As I said, we're a not-for-profit organisation. We're owned by our members. And a lot of the work that the outreach team in particular do is dissuading people from join, or at least dissuading them from join at that point in time. So the right time to join is when you're active, by which we mean if you're playing some live shows, if you're getting some radio play, maybe you're getting some TV, maybe your music is being streamed in considerable numbers. So if you're actually doing those things that are going to generate a royalty from PRS, that's the right time to join. So, and it tends to be for most of our newer joiners that they have a mix of things. They might be doing a few live shows. They might be playing, well, hopefully as we move back into live, doing some live shows, maybe got a couple of small festivals, maybe they're getting some local radio play. So it's that mix of things that get them to the point where there is going to be likely to be £100 or so pipeline royalties. That's the right time to join.
Good. And you do put people off if they're not quite ready. And I like that because you're not there just grabbing their money. And there are other ways of getting royalties without paying the £100 because you can go somewhere like Centric or what do we call Centric though? They're admin publishing admin company, aren't they?
Centric are an admin publisher. So Centric are a PRS member. We have publisher members as well. Centric are a member of PRS. And essentially what Centric do is you can register with Centric. They will take away the admin for you. You notify Centric of the works that you've composed. Centric notify us. And then when you are active, you're gigging, you can, basically your relationship is with Centric. We will then pay Centric, who will then pay their signed writers. So Centric are a PRS member, an admin publisher.
They're the middleman, aren't they? They take away some of the grief.
Yeah.
It's and there are more than just. There's quite a few different Centrics in the country in the world. I mean,
Centric are probably, well, they're definitely the name which I would say from an admin publisher perspective, they're one of the more familiar names. Song Trust are another one. Centric, as you say, it takes away some of the admin. It means that you have to notify Centric instead of notifying PRS. Centric will take a percentage for what they do, as all admin publishers do. So Centric provide a service like everyone else operating in the music industry. They're going to provide a service. You need to be confident that the service is one that you want, match that up against the percentage or whatever. And, same thing for a manager as well. If you're going to take on a manager, You need to know that it's the right manager, right time, and it's going to be the right arrangement. So, but sorry, long and rambling answer for yes, Centric are an admin publisher.
Wonderful. But yeah, there's quite a few of them around. And I think their split at the moment is 80-20 in favor of the member. Like Song Trust is 85-15, whereas you give 100%, but you charge that £100 to start with, I believe.
And then, that's right. And then, I mean, our running costs, we take our running costs off, which generally average out around, I think at the moment, ever so slightly over 10%, and then everything else goes out the door. So again, for the last year that I saw figures, I think we paid out around £650 million to our members. So whatever and I promise you, as much as we can drive our costs down, we do. So as much as we can get out to our members, that's our focus. And many of the people that work at PRS are actually members as well.
Oh, that's nice. That's a lot of money, isn't it? 650 million. Wouldn't say no to that, would we, love?
I would have had worse afternoons, put it that way.
I would have had worse afternoons too. So just thinking of the radio aspect, because I'm a radio plugger, radio presenter, and it's easier for me to get my head around, but this goes for, TV and even like I've got written down elevators, music in elevators, nightclubs, jukeboxes, the gym, when there's music being played. But I'm just going to concentrate on radio because my brain can't handle anymore. So how do radio play royalties work?
Okay.
Kind of a question that you know the answer to, and you knew what I was getting at when I asked that. So
in different ways would be the short answer. So I guess the first thing to say would be all radio stations should have a license to broadcast, PRS license, and I can't remember the name of the license. What's the authority that issues the broadcast licenses? Ofcom?
Not Ofcom, is it? Yeah.
So you need a PRS license to broadcast. And then, quite simply, we get information from radio stations. They supply us with information telling us what they have played, and we are then able to match that against the information on our database, and we're able to pay out per play. Now, I would need to caveat that with the vast majority of our licenses are on a pay per play basis, and the vast majority of the payments we make are on pay per play. There are some smaller stations where it's just not cost effective for us to do it on a pay per play basis because license costs wouldn't be advantageous for the radio station as well. So if it's let's say it's a small community radio station that doesn't have an awful lot of money, then rather than doing a pay per play basis, we will sample them on X days within a given period, and whatever is played within that sampled period will be paid out. So that's the one aspect of radio. So the radio stations tell us what they've played, we're then able to pay out for it, or we sample and pay out accordingly. And then there are different, as I'm sure you'd expect, there are different rates at which we pay. They don't make this easy for me, do they?
No, there's a lot of P's here.
Yeah. Okay, I won't go for the obvious line there. But
leave it.
So at the moment, Radio 2 has the biggest reach. So that is the radio station which is paying out the most on a per minute rate. So if you are played on Radio 2, let's say you and I wrote a song together, we're getting played on Radio 2, and depending on the time of day, we could be earning between £9.40 up to £28.20 per minute. So 3-minute play. So we're going to be, let's say we're on the high peak rate, which is 28.20. So 3 times 28.20.
Nearly £100, isn't it?
2. Yeah. So that is where you begin to get up to that £100 joining point.
Yes. Yeah. But we all need to get on Radio 2.
To put it in context, if we look at some of the smaller stations, so I pulled one at random, 3 Counties Radio.
That's my local.
There you go. Similar thing, pay per play. But there we're looking at rates of between 7 pence per minute up to 22 pence per minute. So multiples there, we're looking at about 66 pence compared to the whatever it was getting on for £100 on Radio 2. So it's a huge range of payments, as you'd expect on the reach of the station for BBC radio stations. But again, it all goes towards building up that picture of a mass of royalties. Does that answer the question?
It does answer the question. I mean, I love all this talk about things. And didn't you call was one a big blanket license for the community stations did you call it a blanket license before when I spoke to you? I can't remember.
Blanket
but
license,
you've already sort of discussed that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, blanket licenses are essentially PRS. When you get a license, whether it's BBC Two or whether it's a local community radio station, it enables you to play all the music in PRS's repertoire. And it also, and I expect we'll probably come on to this, but PRS has reciprocal agreements with other organizations like PRS around the world. So it not only allows you to play music within PRS's repertoire, but also other music around the world. So the blanket license just refers to, it means that you can play everything that's within our repertoire. You don't need to come and check.
That's good. I like it. Okay, so a question that comes up quite a lot is, I've had loads of radio airplay, but nothing's coming through on my statement. Why is this?
Okay.
Stamps, feet.
It could be for a range of reasons. So the first thing would be, in this case, whoever you were chatting to has mentioned a statement. So they are a PRS member, but that would be the first question, which we would generally say to someone, okay, are you a PRS member? Yeah, tick. The next thing would be, is the song registered on our database? Because if we're not aware of the song, if we don't have the song on our database, or then we can't match it when we get the play information back from radio stations. So that would be another possibility. Another possibility, which we just touched on, was what radio station has it been played on? If it's a radio station which has fallen under our sample rather than pay per play, then it may be that, unfortunately, it's fallen out of the sample period, in which case that we wouldn't be able to pay out on that play. If all of those other things have been ticked and actually it's on a pay per play, so let's say it's on a BBC station, it's a pay per play station, and the member still hasn't received a royalty for it, what we would suggest they do is wait for a couple of distributions, because there can often be a time lag between the track being played, and us then getting the information from the radio station. So we would ask people to wait a couple of distributions. We distribute every 3 months. And then if at the end of that period still hasn't turned up on the statement, contact us and we can then look into exactly what has happened there. And it could be that there's been a typo and we haven't been able to match the information we got from the radio station with our database. Whole range of admin reasons that it could be, but contact us and we can have a look at that.
It's very technical, isn't it? I'm getting quite confused. I'm so glad I'm just a lowly radio presenter and plugger. Next question. If I'm in a band with 3 other people, do we all have to be members of PRS for Music to claim our royalties? So we all pay £100 to join, or can one person be a member and then share out the money?
Okay, good question. So I'm going to put on several hats, or a couple of hats, to answer this one, I guess. So the first one, ideally, yes, you would all become a member of PRS for Music, assuming you all wrote the compositions, you all wrote the songs together, you would all join PRS. It's going to sound like I'm saying that because I'm thinking, oh, great, that's 4 times £100. But actually, and this is where I swap hats, as an ex-manager, and I'm sure you're aware of it, I'm sure everyone who's listening in on this is going to be aware of it as well, that, sometimes bands break up, sometimes we have rows in bands, sometimes things don't go quite the way we think they're going to go. Or sometimes you might have a band member who goes off and does a solo project. So if all the royalties are flowing to one person, then there's a whole there's a lot of potential for confusion there. Or if that one person is the one person that the other three members want out of the band, then that would be a major problem. So, and I am, obviously I'm aware that £400, whilst £100, yeah, great value if it's the right time, but it's still 400 quid, it's still a lot of money. So I would suggest that people try and join themselves, or join themselves as soon as they can. If they decide to go for an arrangement where one person was going to be the member and kind of collect all the royalties, I would strongly recommend that you have something in writing that sets out that arrangement. Otherwise, it may prove to be something you regret. And I think that also extends to when you're doing your songwriting generally. And I appreciate that if you're working in a band, you're writing songs, you're all mates together, the last thing you want to do is to have that conversation about, actually, really, maybe that bass line, is it really worth 10%? Maybe not. Probably not worth 50. Or you may alternatively just agree from the off to split everything equally. But whether you choose to split things in accordance with contribution or equally get something in writing and have that conversation at the outset, whether it's at the end of every song you've written, or whether it's you form that band. Because if it feels difficult and awkward to have the conversation at that point when there's no money on the song, it's going to get even more difficult to have the conversation if the song goes on to be successful and there is actually money waiting to be paid out on it. So have that difficult conversation early on.
Yeah, get a couple of beers down your necks, but not too many, and then just say, right, who's having the split on here? I mean, song splits, yeah, they can cause splits, maybe. Who knows? Yeah. But anyway, I've never been in a band, and it would be quite scary if I was, because I'm not musical at all. So, do PRS for Music collect YouTube royalties?
Yeah, YouTube and lots of other platforms like them have PRS licenses, so we'll collect royalties from them, and we will pay out to the members whose music has been used on that. The challenge for us there is just the sheer volume of music that is being used at any one time, and you've got a bunch of writers on each track generally. So we will charge the platform a license fee, but we then have to split the money that has been derived from that license fee across a whole bunch of people, which means that if you are getting played at relatively low numbers, or low, I should say streamed relatively few times, you're not going to be earning an awful lot of PRS royalties. You need to be getting not impossible streams, but you need to be getting up into the thousands and beyond for it to be a meaningful payment for you.
Yeah, same with the old Spotify and everything. We got to be looking for the million hits, or the radio twos in the radio world.
Yeah.
The big payers. But if you look at the PRS for Music website and the payouts, some of the radio stations, like I don't know, the premier Christian radio stations, they pay out a lot. I mean, this is where it's at. Just you could maybe just write some Christian songs. Just throwing it out there. Okay, we've got some. got to go where the money is. Questions from the group as well. This one's from Danny. Can we backdate and claim historic royalties retrospectively?
Short answer would be yes. The long answer would be there are various elements to that. So first and foremost, I mentioned about the need to be a PRS member. The way we treat your membership joining date, we effectively divide the year into two halves. If you join in the latter half of the year, we will treat your membership as if it started on the 1st of July. And obviously for the beginning of the year, or the first half of the year, we would treat the membership as if it started on the 1st of Jan.
Yeah. So
there's an element of backdating which is possible there. You have to be a member for the period at which you are wanting to go back. So if I joined now, what are we now, April, and I wanted to try and claim for some radio play that took place last April before I was a member, then I wouldn't be able to do that because I wasn't a member at the time of the use or at the time of the broadcast. If, on the other hand, I had been a member and as I say, I've realised that, this just wasn't cropping up on my statement, then yeah, we can go back. So broadly speaking, it's a year for live and about 3 years for other different uses. So yes, we can go back.
Very nice. Thanks. Dave Bremner says, how do you get notifications from the radio stations, and do digital radio stations report to you too? We've kind of answered that, haven't we, really? Either it's the pay per play or the sample. And it is unfortunate if you're not played during that sample. This is why sometimes you find out when a radio station is in a sample period, and it usually lasts about a week, doesn't it? It's a week sample, something like that. And you're like, oh, great, I really like band X. Let's put loads of songs from band X in because it's a sample period. It's terrible. It's working the system, it's bad times. But yeah, we kind of answered that already, Dave. So hopefully we've kind of sorted that one out. So, yeah. And then Tim says, oh, Tim, he's having a stamp as well.
Okay.
Why does it take so long, i.e. years, to process information?
Short answer would be just the complexity of what we're trying to do. And again, this is going to sound like one of those cop-out answers, which it isn't. So we processed last year, for which I've seen figures, which I think was 2020, but don't quote me on that. We processed 22.4 trillion uses of music.
How many?
So 22.4 trillion.
That's a lot.
That's a big number. So, and it's that sheer amount of work that goes into trying to match everything up. So you've got elements there. It can be, firstly, there needs to be a license in place. We need to make sure we've got the money in from the licensee. We need to get the information in about the music that's been used. We need to match it in the database, and we need to then pay it out. So, and again, depending on where the performance took place, if it was overseas, it takes longer because it's then going to have to come via the local society through to us. So we do, and I promise you, we do strive to get everything out the door as quickly as we can, but the process does take time.
It's going to take time. And somebody quoted, I don't know if quoted is the right word, but I was talking about this to a musician friend of mine, and he said it can take about 2 years. That seems to be, I think he'd had success in a band, then moved on to another band completely, but was still then got his royalties from being in that band that was quite successful 2 years later. So it's not abnormal. It would be nice if you got it in 3 months, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, I just got played on radio too, 78 quid. Thanks very much. Where is the money? It would be nice if you got it after 3 months or 6 months, but there's a lot of stuff going on. There's trillions of things going on in the background. So yeah, I mean, you get there in the end, don't you? That's the thing. The money is being paid to members.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess the main thing for me is if you've gone through all those processes and you've waited that reasonable period of time and you still haven't got what you're expecting to get, then you should flag it to us so we can look into it.
Yeah, you're actually quite nice humans there.
Some of us, yeah.
From what I've gathered. Mark has been on. I believe we are getting some performance PRS royalties through our digital aggregator, TuneCore, already. Does actual individual membership of PRS get us the composition ones too, or is this a double count? Mark's given me a really weird question there, but yeah, I think you kind of know what we're
I think I know what the question is. So let me answer it this way then. When you, as a PRS member, we will always pay you direct. Now, if you have a publishing deal in place, so if you've done a deal with your publisher, then what we will do is pay 50% of your money, your publisher share, to your publisher. They will then apply the terms of your deal to that 50% and pay that on to you. But the other 50%, we will always pay you direct. So the royalty streams you'll get from your digital aggregator, was that on TuneCore, DistroKid, whoever. So they will be for different things, but your PRS will always come, your performing right royalty will always come from us.
Okay. I mean, I got a bit lost in there, but I'm not surprised. I'm at that age now. But thanks for the answer. I think Mark will probably know exactly what you were talking about. And David, similar, says, our songs have been played on the radio all over the world. most of the online and community radio stations, and I've sent PRS Music a list of over 70. They say I need to furnish them with times and dates. The radio stations I have spoken to say they pay the PRS. So why are they not collecting any royalties? Can you ask?
Yeah, okay. I think we kind of alluded to that one as well. And was it
we have
that posed that one? I think, he said it's mostly online and community stations. So the community stations, in many cases, will be covered under the sample. So perhaps it's not fallen under the sample period. The online stations, again, we will pay out for. And I appreciate that it might be onerous to be asked to give the dates and times, but without that information, we can't actually look into, or it's much more complex and less effective for us to look into what's not been paid out correctly or not been received. So we would always ask, actually, if you can tell us what show it was played on, date, time, as much information you can give, then, as with any kind of detecting program, the more information we have, the more accurate and timely we can be in trying to get an answer.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it, to try and figure out when your song was played and everything, but where you can, obviously, try your best. And we had a chat, didn't we, last time we spoke about the radio monitor. I mean, there's the radio monitor, which is a big company, and then I use the warm one, World Airplay radio monitor, and that comes out with the breakdowns. So that would answer. I mean, David, maybe you should look at using warm. And I'm not on commission, I'd just like to say, because that does give you the printout every week. You can see which radio station has played your song, what time. And then, of course, then you can just send that off to PRS for Music. David, I'm talking to David, not you, Andy. You can send it off to PRS for Music and say, "Oi, here they are. Here's my 10 plays from last week." Or I don't know. I mean, the thing is, you can't go back on those either. So it's only going to be from now on and forward throwing to the future. But radio monitors might be the answer on that. But just
definitely helpful. Yeah. If you're lots of radio shows have, they'll put their playlists up on websites as well. So
they do, and that's like proof, isn't it, as well? So if you could just get a whole load of screenshots, and if you are sending out to radio presenters and shows, often they'll write back and say, yeah, I'm going to play it on my show on Saturday night. And then you could just get a spreadsheet going on, John from Bedford FM is going to be playing on Saturday. It's going to be quite a long task, but, every little helps, I say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's probably an unpopular mantra. Okay, so when you start, no one joins a band because they've got a love of admin, but you're joining a band, it is your art form, but it is also something which you can either make a living out of or supplement your living. And you are setting up a business. So taking on some of those bits that totally get people don't want to do, the admin side of things, if it means it gets a little bit of extra money, maybe it pays for the next rehearsals, maybe it pays for, I don't know, fuel for the next, series of shows.
Strings, plectrums.
Yeah.
Drumsticks.
It's always going to be useful for something.
Yeah, exactly. And the money's there to be had. So, it's, I would allocate, a member of the band to do that kind of thing. All right. So and so is going to be the bass player is going to be in charge of the radio stuff. The drummer can be in charge of something else, the lead singer, blah, blah. So it is a business. That's my dog shaking. And sometimes, you've got to just put a bit more effort in. It's hard work. It is hard work. We have been talking for quite a long time, and I know you've got another appointment, but I just want to quickly touch on ISRC codes because I'm genuinely confused by them and how they work. I understand it is not completely your job, but the ISRCs basically it stands for International Standard Recording Code. And it identifies each track, and then it allows the publisher to track or claim your royalties, kind of thing. It's not your gig, but what can you tell me ISRC codes, and do you need them to get your PRS money?
Probably the two things. Okay, so short answer would be no. The two things to say then. So we got ISRC codes, ISWC codes. The ISWC code is International Standard Work Code. That's the one that's relevant for PRS. ISRC is relevant as the recording code. So that's the PPL side of the world, and PPL can issue those codes in the UK. It's a unique code for each recording, or in the PRS world, for each work, for each composition. So the more that you can supply that metadata, particularly on the recording side, the better it is in terms of tracking ownership and enabling royalties to come back to you. However, from the PRS side, that isn't something which our members need to do themselves. So when, very, very brief nutshell, when we have all the data on a work, so we've got all of the composers and we have all the membership numbers, an ISWC code is automatically allocated. So it isn't something...
My dog.
Just working on its first release. So the ISWC code is something which we would allocate, so our members don't need to be concerned about, actually, where's my ISWC code? How do I get that? That gets allocated from us. Does that answer that question?
Kind of. It's just very confusing, isn't it? I feel like, just doing that, because it is, it's hard work trying to figure it out. So I didn't even know what an ISWC code. Yeah, the work code. I never even heard of that. I just heard of the ISRC codes. I was like, blimey. It's
that's
confusing.
Probably because the ISWC one is less one that you need to get involved with. The ISRC one that's where it is down to the artist to get the code and then include that in their metadata. So I think people are generally more familiar with ISRC codes. So they put
you mean when you talk about the metadata, you're talking about when they is that the studio's job or the producer? Is the producer putting the metadata into the actual track?
I think, okay.
Am I getting too technical?
You're getting way too technical for me, but also my mantra on these things is if I'm involved, not me, but if I'm the artist, whether I'm including it or whether it's the delegated band member that includes it, or whether it's someone from the studio, as long as someone is doing it, and it depends on where you are in your career as well. I mean, I doubt that Ed Sheeran, Adele, Stormzy sit there inputting their own data. But again, if I'm an emerging level band, maybe it's something I am going to set aside the time to do because it enables me to track that recording.
Okay. Good old Ed and Stormzy, probably even Dave. I mean, good old Dave. He's very big right now, isn't he? Okay, I'm sure they're not doing that, but they may have done back in the olden days. All right, well, I think that's covered that, because I'm actually, that's quite a lot for my little brain to take. I think we've answered quite a few questions about PRS music. I think we've answered everything that was from the group. So hopefully people will be happy with that. I was going to say about the cover versions. If you release a cover version, get a load of radio play for it. Who gets the money? Ain't going to be you.
It will be the people who wrote the version. So you wouldn't get any, you wouldn't get any PRS, but you would get PPL for your version.
Because you played on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then while I was doing the research for this interview, they gave the example of Mark Arman, Soft Cell, doing Tainted Love. Massive, massive hit. Like, what was it, 1981, something like that? But massive, Tainted Love. And then, so of course, they didn't earn any money from the songwriting. And then the B-side was another cover. So didn't even earn any money from the B-side either. So yeah, that was not the best decision. So if you're going to do cover versions, they do have a lot, you can do well with cover versions. I could discuss that another time. But always best to release your own material as well, just to, bump up your wages a bit. But no, it's been very helpful. Thank you very much. Some of the questions I didn't even know what I was saying. I was like reading my writing going, what? I can't even remember. But thank you, Andy. I really appreciate it. And
very, very welcome.
We love PRS for music. We do. And, just remember how many pieces of information do you have to go through to get all that fine-tuned?
22.4 trillion uses of music were processed in the last year that I saw figures for. So
exactly.
Probably 2020.
There's a lot of stuff going on there. Just be a bit patient. You'll get the money in the end. That's what we're saying. We're hopeful anyway. I've got my fingers crossed for everyone. Thank you very much, Andy. It's been a pleasure.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for inviting me along.
Take care. Thank you.